Good morning, and thanks again for joining us on TV Xyz and Xyz TV. This is the morning update. We are starting from this time till 9 o'clock. I'm sure you took a glance at the weather update. It looks as if most parts of the country will be dry today. But as Abena has always said, move along with your umbrella. If it is too hot, cover yourself. At least give yourself some shade. It's good. It keeps your body hydrated. And of course, I've always told you, Abena has always told you, natural mineral water
yes.
is the order of the day.
Yes.
The order of the day.
The order of the day, yes. And also, if you are looking to distribute, Musi will put some numbers on the screen that you can call, and we'll set you up for life.
You are not sounding exciting this morning.
I'm not. That is because
on the faces of those who
I am trying.
Talk to them directly.
I am trying. I'm trying. This morning I woke up with all smiles, coming to talk to you, and then I picked my phone and started reading some stories online and found out that one of the teenagers that was arrested for the 10-year-old murder apparently has been on a stealing spree for a while now. So he was even arrested some time back, and the 16-year-old also was stole some money and brought to the 18-year-old for them to buy a phone. And for the 18-year-old, when he stole and was arrested, he was telling the grandfather that they should go to a shrine and swear, because he kept saying he wasn't the one that stole the money. Now the grandfather says he suggested that because that is the norm over there. So every time something goes missing, in order to find a thief, they go to the shrine to swear.
It's a habit he has formed.
Exactly.
And the society or the community or the home knows.
Exactly. And it's a habit that the society has formed, because the grandfather said that is what happens around there whenever something
happens. They go to the shrine.
So that is why I kept saying that, yes, the media, we play a role, we accept that, but the majority of the responsibility lies in the homes, in the communities. We keep doing the same things that we blame the politicians and government for.
To the community, because
yes,
we know that when children are in their formative stages, they associate with peers they are comfortable with.
Exactly.
And so you may have a child who may not have a certain habit, but could be influenced by friends to do the bad things. And society, in my opinion, should also take into consideration the reformation aspect of how we groom people. And so if you know somebody is doing something bad, you don't just keep quiet and let it go, because you could be a victim.
Exactly.
Assume that you choose to be quiet because you don't care. It is not in your home. And these children pounced on your child. How would you
Which has
react?
happened. Which
has
this
morning I was also reading that the Ochehene has banished that fetish priest who was picked by the police.
I think they gave a warning over the weekend.
Husband have been banished from the community. And then you remember we also did a story about a woman who was seen in a video, a leaked video, chanting and then stabbing a picture, apparently to kill the president and a certain Okwape Hene who had been installed. He has given them 2 weeks. In fact, he has given the fetish priest involved in the rituals 2 weeks to produce the fetish priestess, or he will find himself to blame. And so these are things people are witnessing as we react towards what happened at Kaswa, unfortunately.
So mine is that let's stop pointing fingers at the media. Yes, we will do what we need to do, but we as parents, as members of the community or society, we should also have some sort of orientation, because if you are teaching your children that when somebody steals, you swear here, there, it means they've become comfortable with going to the shrine. You understand what I'm saying? So for an 18-year-old,
you remember there was a day we opened the phone lines, that was last Friday, and asked people to call. The preamble was a text message I read that if it is the habit of even people at the top, politicians, to openly swear or want to go to the shrine to curse somebody and do all those things, when the children watch these things happen, they assume that it is normal. Yes. It is normal, and so they will walk with it. It's like you go to a typical village where the orientation of the people there is Voodooism. So every now and then they are talking about gods, they are pouring libation, they are cursing people. Yes, it may bring some level of discipline in some of those communities where your phone can fall and somebody may assume that it's a trap. And so that phone will be there till you come to pick it. Or somebody would not want to take that phone home because the person doesn't want curses to follow the fellow. It may be working for them in those communities, but for the larger public, those things won't wash.
It won't.
Well, this morning I want to say good morning to a good friend of mine. He's called Bogawan. And yesterday he told me that when I was mentioning the names of some of our friends who were celebrating their birthday, in fact, he has triplets, and that
oh wow,
for me. He has triplets, and he was telling
boys,
me that
all girls.
I will tell you when. In fact, he told me he's sending me the names because he told them at the time we were reading actually the messages. He dropped the list. I wanted me to mention them because he was there with them, and he was telling the children, "Oh, Papa no, Madam for Papa." And unfortunately, I didn't mention the name, so I'm sure he felt disappointed. This morning, I want to put a smile on the faces of the triplets. The names are Gabriel, Godfred, and Gabriela Apia, who celebrated their birthday yesterday at Teshinungwa Estates, and their mother is Elizabeth Apia and Boga One. In fact, I have to do this for them. There's another troublesome gentleman called Della. I will mention the full name. When I say Della, those who
he knows himself.
But let's do serious business here. Good morning to everybody. This is TVXYZ. This is Xyz TV. We started very slow, not for any reason. Sometimes you wake up early and you feel like you don't want to go to work.
For me, it's because of the story.
I nearly called Abuadi that I have stomach ache, so I won't come to work. Have you done it before?
No.
You have?
I haven't.
Because I don't trust you.
I haven't. I was happy this morning until I saw the news item.
Okay.
But before we delve into much deeper stories, we'll take a quick turn and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning updates. As you saw, two of the things that actually stuck with me when I saw the business tidbits was with the fact that you need to hire a customer-friendly staff. A number of occasions I've stopped going to certain places because of the customer care that was given to me, which was very terrible. And surprisingly, some of the telcos have got customer, what's it called? How do you call them? Service centers. The ones who receive the calls that are a bit rude. So since they record all the calls, I mean, they should be able to check and know which ones are doing that. And also stay open longer. I know there are some places that you go to and they say they open at 9, but they'll open at sometimes 9:30, 10. But when they say they close at 5, by 4:30 they are packing up. So by the time you get there, even when it's 4:48, they are closed.
It's bad. I believe that people will appreciate. I have a personal experience. I was living in a community at Elmina, to be specific, Elmina Smith Flats. I lived there for a number of years. And there was this woman who had a shop at the basement. And so all of us saw it as the last resort. You go to town, do everything, have chill, do everything. You know, if you come even at 1 a.m. and you knock, they'll wake up. You want to buy Gary or Kinky or Kobe or whatever. And it went on for years. Then the shop became bigger. So the woman was expanding her business. Then when she felt she had arrived. Now when you knock, she will ask you, so she will weigh what you want to buy. So if you want to say, I want to buy maybe a can of Milo, 4 tins of milk, she will open the gate and serve you. But if you say, oh, I don't know whether that is customer
it's bad. It's bad because the provision shop in my estates is doing the same thing.
It's okay. Let's leave them. They are doing their business. Of course, they must relax. You can't just walk in at any time when the person may be taking a nap and you say you want to buy something. I want to buy maybe a cup of salt, maybe 1 CD. Look, it doesn't mean business.
Yeah, we've heard you.
But I believe Business Tidbits has a lot to share. Many will agree that little drops of water makes a mighty ocean.
Yeah.
So the 1 peso, 2 peso, 3 pesos, if you are committed to it, of course, you make more money and expand your business. But let's deal with the newspapers. The front page, Ghanaian Times, 5 die in road crash, others injured. The details are on page 3. Chieftaincy dispute looms at Wenchicken following enskinment of a chief. You know, yesterday we told the story of what was happening at Chereponi, where there's heavy deployment of police and military personnel. Apparently, the story has to do with the decision by the Yana to grant the enskinment of the new chief for the community. That's a volatile area. And so one of the factions decided to just warm up for a clash. It's almost been bloody anytime we hear such incidents. People flee the community. Yesterday we were told some of them were fleeing, but the timely intervention of the DC, the regional police command and so on brought the situation under control. But that's a typical farming community. It's sparsely populated, and so the risk involved and the threat to ordinary farmers is that when they go to their farms and they are working on the plantations alone, some irate youth in the community just try to take them by surprise, shoot or fire at them, and then that actually sparks the conflict. So we are praying that at this stage there will be more engagement to calm the situation. Now, the big story on the front page of the Ghanaian Times says standoff at Efija Kwabre South District as residents resist demolition of 500 houses for quarry project. So that's it on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let me do the back page. Minister pledges private sector support for mass housing and build capacity of women entrepreneurs for after benefits. GEA CEO is advising. That's the Ghana Enterprises Agency. These are on the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Abna, before you come in, if you go to page 13 of the Ghanaian Times, there's a story here. The Minister for Roads and Highways is pleading decouple road funds from other statutory funds. I think it's a very good call. I support it. And I just hope that it will not just be an appeal. It's a cabinet member. And so you should be taking this conversation to cabinet meetings and get that support.
Hopefully that becomes...
You know why it is important? Now, the reason why, in my opinion, it is important is that when they put all these together into statutory funds, it becomes difficult for people to access the money because even though it is named road fund, it goes into a pool. And as and when the finance minister feels like releasing some of those monies,
feels like
because it is a discretion that he has. A lot of things are on his table. Ghanaians are putting a lot of demands on the finance minister's table. So he weighs, draws the priority line and then sees which ones to settle. But if you look at Get Fund, for example, it goes directly there. And so access will only be when it is approved. But here, you can't even determine how much has come in and what percentages you are taking out. But that's all for Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Okay, so other institutions also asking that they have a dialogue and talk about how to revive the economy after and during the COVID-19 is the Trades Union Congress and also Association of Ghana Industry. So it says here that hold economic dialogue coming from these two institutions. Now, court watches video on Major Mahama murder. If you could remember, not too long ago, Major Mahama was brutally killed, and the case, so the suspects actually have been in remand, police remand for a while now, and the case have reopened. Also, 3 experts make case now initiate steps to relocate the capital city, which is a conversation that has been going on since last week. Now, Ghana has no fishing vessel operators. On the back page, however, it says 6 communities in Savannah, Bono East get warehouses, whereas revenue mobilization, not mass disconnection coming from ECG.
So let's do the business and financial times, but I'm surprised that the big newspapers are not reporting the controversy around IMF's own document, which says Ghana has been downgraded from middle class level to lower level income status. You remember around 2013 when we had the elevation, there was a lot of conversation. In fact, IMF had a lot of hope, and in one of the statements I read on its portal at that time, it said that the expectation is strong political will for Ghana to sustain the gains and to move on to the positive direction, towards the positive direction, which will boost investor confidence. Now, if you look at details of that document, which IMF says it's fake, but people are referencing it. I have read the document on IMF's own website. I got a release from IMF sent to my personal mail, which had all the details as has been reported. It says IMF's April 21 fiscal monitor. Now look at how serious the concerns are with reference to public debt. It says that public debt stock is still on a nosedive. It is projected to hit 81.5% of GDP by December 2021, 83.2% in 2022, further to 84.8% in 2023, and 86.0% in 2024, and 86.6% in 2025. So it gives you some concern about how much we are borrowing and what space will be left. Government has always said, oh, this smart borrowing, or Baumia will say, oh yes, we have borrowed so much, but the rate at which we are borrowing is slow. I don't understand that. The reality is that if Ghana continues borrowing at this stage, it may hit the wall, because IMF says Ghana is walking into a debt-distressed country. Now, IMF has actually responded in a tweet. In his tweet, I just want to read briefly. It says, fake news at George Wiafe at Joy FM, and the IMF's actual comment said that what Joy FM had put on its Twitter page said, IMF has classified Ghana as low-income country according to their fiscal monitor classification, hashtag Joy FM SMS. But this is quite exciting. MP for Bolga Central, Isaac Adongo, has also put on his Facebook page, including the list of all the countries that were classified as such. And it read, the IMF authored the fiscal monitor in which it classified countries into groupings based on income levels. It puts Ghana under low-income developing country grouping, even though there is a middle-income country grouping. It did not find Ghana qualified to put there, and he concluded, shameless. And if you look at the list where Ghana is, you see Congo Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Then you have Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea, Haiti, Honduras, Kenya, and it goes on and on and on. So this controversy obviously will trend for a while. We are
taking a nosedive. I guess then we should be paying much attention to what the MP is saying, that we should, he says MP makes case for Cashew Development Authority. Now, according to him, just last year, the country got about $300 million from the cashew industry. So if we should come in to support the farmers, just like they do for cocoa farmers, they will increase production and the country will gain some economic strength. So I guess that's something that should be looked at.
Good. You have Ben Epson's paper.
Yes.
Daily Dispatch.
Do you want to do
No, I'm interested in Daily Dispatch.
I am, because there's there's an interesting story there. But before I get to that, the banner story here says 2019 research shows 30% apathy in Greater Accra and also Ashanti if implemented. Also, Abu Jinapot working on lack of personnel for Galamsey monitoring. But this is the catch. Chinese officials seize over 7,200 male organs worth $1.5 billion on a cargo ship from Nigeria.
Male organs?
Yes. Apparently it's a booming business.
Are they fresh ones for eating? I don't know.
I have no idea what is used for.
Male organs.
Yes, they are harvesting.
Look for it when we come back.
We'll talk about it. I actually did, and then the spokesperson for the Chinese General Administration was saying that they know that. Can I say it?
Okay, so leave it there. Ghana ready to be taken off EU AML blacklist. Bank of Ghana on-site testing schedule for May, and then replicate digital leakage system across all sectors. And NHS financial sustainability hinges on 3 factors: timely release of funds by government, stemming rising medicine price, and keeping economic growth on track. We'll be taking a break, Abena.
Yes.
And your friend
Wisdom Nyansa Heda Jome will come with details of some of the stories.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yes.
It be old cargo. Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Always drink fresh, natural, mix, mineral, water.
Still got it.
Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
It's 7 a.m. on the dot, and as always, Wisdom Heda Jome is here to give us details of some of the headlines we've discussed. Good morning, Wisdom. Take us away.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Great.
Take us away.
So this morning's edition, we have Ghana's energy hit by more crisis as it battles doom. So gas shortage hits town as LPG marketers withdraw services over a new levy, and the minority is backing this protest. Also, IMF reportedly downgrades Ghana from middle income to low income level country amid serious concerns about ballooning public debt. GES urged to restructure TV learning programs to benefit final year SHS students who are wallowing at home, and this year's Ramadan begins in earnest. We have details of these and other stories coming up. Thank you so much for choosing us this morning. Let's begin the bulletin from the IMF issues, because years ago Ghana took pride of an elevation to lower middle income status. Now, the IMF in its summary projected brighter prospect and investor confidence, but on the condition of strong political will to decisively confront Ghana's short-term vulnerabilities. That was in 2013. Barely 7 years on, the economy is in crisis, with debt to GDP ratio projected to hit a whopping 83.2% in 2022 and 86% in 2024.
Over the past 2 years, rating agencies like Fitch, Standard & Poor's, as well as the International Monetary Fund, have flagged Ghana over its rising debt. But government has consistently fought back. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has been consistent in his rebuttals, describing the loans as smart borrowing compared to the previous administration and at a much slower rate regardless of the billions added to the national debt. According to the IMF's latest report, April 2021 Fiscal Monitor, Ghana's public debt stock is still on a nosedive and projected to hit 81.5% of GDP by the close of this year. IMF has currently downgraded Ghana from a middle-level to low-level income country. Per the IMF data on low-income developing countries, Ghana's debt to GDP ratio will surge to 83.2% in 2022, rise further to 84.8% in 2023, 86.0% in 2024, and 86.6% in 2025. This, according to the IMF, could possibly push Ghana's economy into a highly debt-distressed category, as majority of revenue will be used to service debt, leaving only small fiscal space. The concern comes after an earlier signal by the IMF that Ghana is heading towards HIPC, an issue which was vehemently rejected by government. The latest report by the IMF exposes government over its claims the economy has been better managed, contrary to criticisms by minority in parliament. In 2013, when Ghana was upgraded into a middle-income status, IMF was full of hope for Ghana. A brief summary of its regular review said, and I quote, "With robust economic growth of 8%, strong democratic institutions, and favorable prospects for oil and gas, Ghana is attracting significant foreign direct investment. However, continued success will depend on strong political will to decisively confront Ghana's short-term vulnerabilities. Ghana's total public debt stock reached an all-time high of 291.6 billion cedis in December 2020, approximately 76.1% of GDP, according to the Bank of Ghana. External debt alone stood at 141.8 billion cedis, approximately 24.7 billion US dollars. This is also equivalent to 37% of GDP.
Now, MP for Bolga Central, Isaac Adongo, wrote on Facebook, quote, "The IMF altered the fiscal monitor in which it classified countries into groupings based on income levels. It puts Ghana under low-income developing countries grouping, even though there was a middle-income country grouping. It did not find Ghana qualified to put there. Shameless." So that's coming from Isaac Adongo. Well, TVX as a news will follow up and bring you details on this particular development. Well, let's now attention to some other stories and now to the power sector, because the African Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, says government attempt to water down the crisis facing the energy sector is worrying. According to ACEP, the so-called routine maintenance blamed for the intermittent outages are questionable because ECG and Gridco need to explain what stored the processes over the past 4 years or admit various dumso. TVXYZ News has been speaking to Head of Policy and Petroleum Conventional Energy at ACEP, Justice Kojo Yauche, in the following report.
Despite of the conflicting statements from the two main agencies in the transmission and distribution chain, Gridco and ECG, government insists there is no dumso and the intermittent power outages have nothing to do with finances. Last week, Gridco and ECG presented their situational reports at an engagement with CSOs and the media. The event, facilitated by Energy Think Tank, Institute for Energy Policy and Research, in collaboration with the Africa Center for Energy Policy, was intended to help them appreciate the current challenge and put measures in place. TVXYZ News has followed up engaging ASEP on the way forward. Head of Policy of Petroleum and Conventional Energy, Justice Kojo Yauche, says government cannot delink financial constraints from the reality facing the sector today.
Then why do we have power cuts? Right? We are experiencing the power cuts. For the consumer, you don't care what nomenclature people want to put to what we are having. Is that I want power and I can't have it. Right? And I think it is unfair to consumers. At this stage, the first step is acknowledging that this problem exists. And we have to also make the distinction between the problem that exists.
ASEP says the debate over Dumso now is inconsequential. Mr. Yauche also questioned why it will take ECG and Gridco to undertake maintenance work at a time industry players are expecting consistent investment to meet increasing demand.
Why are we having all these projects coming up around this time? Some of these projects should have been completed last year or 2 years ago in 2019, right? But because of financing delayed, or they were trying to find money to do those projects. That is why we are having all of these projects coming in almost around the same time. Some should have been completed earlier. So if someone says that this issue is not as a result of finance, then if they have the money, how about the other projects that Gridco has outlined are critical projects that should be developed? They should go ahead and do them as well. Let's not wait for another 3-4 years for us to be having this problem. There should be consistent investment in our power infrastructure.
He noted that 26% of losses is purely technical and can be addressed if efficiency is enhanced. ASEP is recommending to ECG not to make nationwide mobilization exercise a knee-jerk action.
If you look at how much ECG is losing in terms of technical and commercial losses, now we are doing around 26% of power that is being lost, and those losses are also factored into it. We don't think that ECG should be getting any more money until they are able to account and show a roadmap on how they'll be able to reduce those losses in the system as it is.
Meanwhile, most Ghanaians are kicking against the proposed tariff increase. Those who spoke to our news team say there is no justification at this time when people are bracing themselves for more taxes.
If they are not ready to increase the salary, they can't increase the tariffs for us. That means that the consumer will suffer our world. Salary will become small for us to cater for our children.
For the Dumso and Co, I think government should relax, because for the COVID and Co, I don't think it's the best time for government to increase tariff, because you can see, if you look at the situation now in the system, increased tariff, everything is up. Where I live now, since yesterday, light is off. So increased tariff is going to affect us.
When it happens this way, it makes the ordinary Ghanaian to also decide to do whatever you want. And this is some of the things that is causing people doing anything anyhow in the country. So I don't think there is a need for it to increase tariff now. Now what is needed is the government must make sure that people have gotten job doing. And if I'm able to get job doing and I'm being paid well, I'll be able to pay my bills. If I'm not being able.
Well, still in the sector, there are reports of gas shortage across the country following the decision by the LPG marketers to suspend services over proposed 18 pesos upward adjustment on kilogram of LPG bought. Now, there are long queues at many filling stations in Accra, and suspicions the shortage is artificial because the OMCs are hoarding their product. Vice Chairman of the LPG marketing companies, Gabriel Kumi, says the decision is unfair, threatens their businesses even if it is passed on to the consumer. He explains that selling the product at 6 cedis 30 pesos per kilo is the highest compared to the rates in neighboring countries. Meanwhile, ranking on the Energy Committee of Parliament, John Chinapo, who has been speaking to the controversy, describes the increment as illegal and wants it withdrawn.
That is unfortunate. That's unacceptable, and the minority would not allow that to stand. We intend filing a motion in Parliament to get that rescinded. The LPG is a critical commodity. We are all talking about environmental degradation. We are talking about pollution. We are talking of cutting of our precious trees in the north. And so LPG is a way to ensure that we keep that pollution and environmental degradation. And so any attempt to make LPG expensive would only go a long way to defeat that purpose. But more importantly, this was not captured in the budget statement. And everything we did, the parent document is the budget statement. So clearly, this is illegal, and the minority wish to serve notice that we shall resist that. I would issue a statement to that effect, and we shall follow that on the floor of Parliament and get that reversed, because that is illegal.
Well, let's turn attention to the education sector, because there is a strong recommendation to the Ghana Education Service to restructure the current TV learning programs to favor final year SHS students to compensate for their time at home when they have where they should have been in school preparing for their WASI.
Final year senior high school students are to stay home till May 5. The GES has assured parents of a crash program to ensure they cover at least 1,040 instructional hours when they resume, to prepare them adequately for the West African Senior Secondary School Certificate exams. The assurance comes regardless of nearly 8 months lost when schools were officially closed last year in line with the COVID-19 restrictions. Educationists fear the poor management of the laudable policy could jeopardize the future of the children. While the GES is allaying fears, students like their parents strongly disagree.
Looking at our academics, we didn't do anything. We are now in Form 2, but most of the Form 2 topics we have not treated. To me, I think it's a very bad decision, and this will affect our academic.
Education economist and professional researcher Peter Pate shares the trauma students are likely to face and believes parents at this stage should better take up the responsibility to motivate their wards, since there is no sign of a concrete plan by GES to condition them.
When you tell the child that you are going on break at 12 and it's past 12 and the child is not on break, you see that if you were a teacher in the class, you see the children, they will start misbehaving. So their minds were tilted towards going to campus to go and study for their exams. And this has happened. The parents should be a source of motivation, a source of guidance to the child.
Peter Pate, who is also a data analyst, says what is even more worrying are disadvantaged students from the private homes and communities where access to internet is a luxury. He is strongly recommending to the GES to restructure the learning platform on TV to favor SHS3 students with immediate effect.
We've all called on the Ghana Education Service to make sure that they rectify these things so that going forward we will not have such challenges again. But going forward, what we have proposed is that the Ghana Education Service should, as a matter of urgency, pull down the content on the Ghana Learning Television, restructure it in such a way that it will be suitable for the final year students.
It is estimated that at least 250,000 final year SHS students are likely to be most affected because of the inconsistencies in GES decision on reopening of school. The latest decision postponing the date to May 5 has been blamed on the recommendation by the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools for lack of furniture and other logistics, but critics describe that as a cover-up.
Now, the FDA says samples taken from fishes washed ashore is almost done in terms of investigations.
A report on investigations into the dead fishes washed ashore Ghana's coastline was expected last Friday, but officials says it is multifaceted and time will be needed by all agencies involved to put their notes together. There are already different schools of thoughts. The Fisheries Commission's preliminary investigations indicate that stress factors caused the death. Researchers at the Marine and Fisheries Sciences Department of University of Ghana have concluded the incident could have been a result of low oxygen concentration in the waters. Head of Communications and Public Education at the Food and Drugs Authority is, however, urging the public to exercise patience for the final report on the investigations commissioned by the Fisheries Ministry. Rhoda Apia explains.
We are waiting on several other agencies that are related to this fish phenomena to come up with the outcome of the laboratory test, and then as soon as they are ready, they will submit it to the Honorable Minister, and then we'll find a means of letting the public know. I know of the University of Ghana one, but I can't tell what it's whether it's going to the minister or just to the public. But what I know has been commissioned between us, the Ghana Standards Authority, Fisheries, Veterinary Services, and we are waiting on reports to be put together to be able to disseminate.
The FDA says its surveillance team is still on alert and has so far managed to retrieve some of the smoked dolphins in the Azim area. She is therefore urging the public to volunteer information to ensure the safety of unsuspected consumers.
Our appeal to those who might have consumed this fish is that they go to the hospital, because we've still not been able to ascertain the cause of death of these marine life, and it will not, as far as FDA is concerned, it cannot be declared as wholesome and safe for consumption. Yeah. At the same time, we implore the public to come up with information and details to the Food and Drugs Authority, so that if we need to do any tracing to get some more of these items brought to us in terms of the fish or the dolphin meat, they can be able to do that. People who have such information can contact us on our hotlines.
And in other news, the Human Rights Division of the Accra High Court has dismissed an ex parte injunction application from one of the Rastafarian students denied admission to the Achimota School. The interlocutory injunction filed on April 6 was for enforcement of the fundamental human right of the applicant, but the court, presided over by Justice Gipti Adweje, said there would be travesty of justice on the respondent, considering the application was filed in ex parte. The court, however, says it will rather expedite action on the substantive matter on April 22. And before we go, Muslims in Ghana have joined their colleagues around the world for this year's Ramadan fasting. Here is a brief report about that sacred event.
Officially, the first day of Ramadan begins today, Tuesday, April 13. This follows the announcement by the signing committee in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia last Sunday. The announcement, which has become traditional for all Muslims globally, follows the sighting of the crescent moon on the onset of the holy month. The annual observance is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam, with fasting beginning the 4th pillar. Muslims fast as an act of worship, a chance to get closer to God, and a way to become more compassionate to those in need. Fasting is also seen as a way to learn patience and break bad habits. Ramadan lasts for 29 to 30 days, depending on the moon cycle. Before the sun rises, Muslims usually wake up to eat a big meal to survive the day. Not all Muslims fast during Ramadan. Those usually exempted are the pregnant, the sick, those menstruating, or others traveling long distances. Children are also not required to fast, but they are often encouraged to learn by participating, such as fasting up till lunchtime. This year, the holy month ends when the sun sets on Wednesday, May 12. The period is climaxed with a celebration of the Eid, often over a large feast.
And we wish our Muslims friends the best in this particular sacred exercise. And that'll be it for this morning's edition of News in Brief or Morning Update. As always, do log on to my xyzonline.com for more news stories and updates. Abena, it's your day. Take over.
How long can you fast for?
I can do plenty.
Liar.
No, you can do
you can't be a Muslim. It's okay.
I can do 21.
We've established you can't be a Muslim. Thank you very much, Wisdom Head Jome. We'll take a quick time. When we come back, we will be discussing details of some of the things that happen or activities that happen during Hamatans, the do's and don'ts of the public.
I love makeup. Applying it gives me so much joy. But when it's time to take it off, nothing does the job quite like the Black Secret Makeup Wipes. When I go somewhere and I feel really sweaty, I take my Black Secret wipe and I use it on my face. It picks me up and I don't look as tired as I did when I walked in.
Before I work on a client's face, I like to go over it with Black Secret Makeup Wipes to make sure the face is clean. It doesn't leave the face dry and tight, but it keeps it soft and moisturized.
Wipe say your bodo. Bakope, and it gets the job done. Or baby, and the smell makes the experience even better.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back to the morning update on TV XYZ. My name, of course, is Nana Abunasel, and this program is brought to you by X Natural Mineral Water, simply natural, and of course, Black Secret Makeup. Get the Black Secret Makeup, and I tell you, you will not regret it. This is coming from a girl to a girl. You will not regret it. If you don't want anything at all, get our lipsticks and then our facial wipes as well, and you're good to go. Now, today we will be discussing Ramadan. Not too long ago, the Christians celebrated Easter, which also involves them celebrating the death of Jesus Christ to wipe away our sins, even though we still continue in our sin. But hopefully the Muslims fast and pray for the entire community and nation at large, so that we change from certain habits that we are indulging in to the point where our teenagers also are indulging as well. That's one of the facts that I think you should know about the Ramadan festivities. It has to do with the fact that Muslims fast as an act of worship. It gives them a chance to get closer to God and a way to become more compassionate to those in need. And if you agree with me, Muslims are very compassionate. You see, most of the time when they are celebrating, even till today, Christians used to do that on Christmas, Boxing Day, but we stopped. But Muslims till today, I still get meat from my Muslim friends, you know. Also, now this fasting is seen as a way to learn patience and break bad habits, which I am very concerned about, because as I stated earlier, we have been developing certain bad habits, and we have seen that in recent times, men killing their wives, also children going for sakawa. We saw the sakawa boy who wanted to put on his friend's ring and it got stuck. So lots of things have been happening. Also, Ramadan lasts for 29 or 30 days depending on the moon cycle. Before the sun rises, Muslims usually wake up to eat a big meal to survive the day. I remember when we were in high school, we used to make fun of our Muslim friends because they wake up early and they eat. And so we never really understood why they would do that. So we felt like, why are you eating? If it's that simple, then we could all do it. I tried it for 2 days. I couldn't. I'm sorry. Now, also, not all Muslims fast during Ramadan. Apparently, certain people are exempted from fasting during this period. Now, this is because those usually exempted are the pregnant. So if you're pregnant, then you do not do the fast or partake in it. Also, if you are sick, if you're a woman that is menstruating, or persons traveling long distances also are exempted from this fasting. Also, children are not required to fast, but they are often encouraged to learn by participating. Now, this year, the holy month ends with the sun sets on Wednesday, May 12. And so I think Christians are also allowed to partake in the activity as well. Now, we will be talking to Imam Alhaji Saheed Abdullahi. He's an Islamic scholar and Pong Katamanso Municipal Chief Imam. Now, as you can see, some of the activities that go on the screen, there is prayer. And one thing I also commend the Muslims for, they constantly pray 5 times a day. Christians are tasked to do once a week, go to church, and we don't even show up. That is how bad it is. But our Muslims are very committed to praying. They are committed to fasting. They are very committed to their religion, and you can see that in their community. They are really united, which is also another thing that I wish we Christians would adapt from them as well. So you see them praying, they kneel down. Oh, and fun fact, I found out that when they're praying on the mat, you have to let your forehead actually touch the ground itself. So not the mat, it has to touch the ground. And that's actually a fun. And so if you see a Muslim who prays a lot, you see that they have a black thingy on their forehead that tells you that they pray a lot. Now we have the Imam on the line, and he will be taking us through some of the activities that go on, and if indeed COVID has affected their activities in any way. Good morning, Imam.
Good morning, madam. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Do I say happy Ramadan?
Well, no problem. It can be said. We have entered into this illustrious and auspicious month, which everybody is very happy, especially Muslims throughout the whole world. And I know even non-Muslims are also happy, because we keep hearing friends are saying that Muslims, we are also joining you. We are joining
yes,
you.
We are joining you. But I think some of us have ulterior motives. It's so that you give us some of the meat after.
Yeah, when we are done, I mean, it's automatic, you know. It's automatic.
yes, that's true. But quickly, for educational purposes, can you take us through some of the activities that go on during this time?
Right. Basically, Islam is based on 5 pillars. The 5 pillars, the first of them is to believe that God is one, and Muhammad is a messenger of God. This is the first pillar of Islam. Bearing in mind that God has sent so many prophets to this world, but the last of them is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second pillar of Islam is to pray 5 times a day. As we see Muslims washing their hands and feet and all that, 5 times a day we do it. The third one is the fasting, which we are starting now. And fourth one is zakat, which is a welfare contribution that we make to poor persons. And the fifth one is Hajj. You hear the Muslims are going to annual pilgrimage in Mecca. So today we are talking about the third pillar of Islam, which is the fasting. And fasting, the legislation has been, enacted in the Quran. Quran chapter 2, verse 183 and 185. These two verses in the Holy Quran chapter 2, verse 183 and 185. God tells us that He has decreed fasting for us, as He decreed it for those before us, the believers before us, so that we attain God consciousness. Right. So basically, every Muslim who is matured, and when we say matured, we are not talking about us in law, Ghana law or Western law, but we are talking about the Islamic law. Islamic law, a mature person is somebody who has, if it's a female, she has menstruated. And if it's a male, he has also had a feeling for a woman. So whether she's 10 years, 11 years, or 12 years, whatever, as long as she has menstruated, she becomes valid, and it becomes obligatory upon her to fast.
Right.
And this fasting, we we have instructions as to how to go about the fasting. The first thing is that before a night preceding the day, you have to declare your intention in the heart that you are going to fast for the sake of God, according to the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for 30 days or 29 days before you sleep with it. Now, the next morning, the first thing you have to do is you get up at 3:30 early in the morning. Then you take in something which is called safur. And the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, we should all take safur, because there's barakat in that, there's blessing in it. So if you are fasting as a Muslim, you are not supposed to fast on an empty stomach. Even if you don't have appetite to eat at dawn and you want to drink water, it suffices as the safur we are talking about.
Right.
You can also take fruit, tea, or any light thing that is okay. Then the whole day, from morning till evening, by sunset, you don't eat anything. You don't also drink anything. You don't put anything inside your mouth and swallow to your stomach. No, it's not accepted.
Right.
There are certain things which are also permitted on the days other than Ramadan. But when it is Ramadan, it is also forbidden, such as cohabiting with your wife during daytime. But in the night, when you have broken the fast, you are permitted to go onto your wife. That is what the Quran says.
Right.
Now, during the day, as a Muslim who is fasting, some of the ritual things that you have to observe is that, first of all, the Quran itself, according to the Quran, was revealed in the month of Ramadan. So it is a month of Quran. And every Muslim is supposed to honor the Quran by reading the Quran excessively from page to page to the end of the whole Quran. So by the time we finish Ramadan, you would have completed reading the full Quran itself. And if you are not capable of reading in Arabic, you can also read in English, but you stand in prayer and listen to those who are reading in Arabic and you listen to it. The next thing you also have to do is that you have to make sure you glorify God. You have to say La ilaha illallah so many times. That is, God is one, God is one, God is one. It is important because the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, these two things you have to do by declaring that God is one profusely on your tongue, and also asking for forgiveness of sins from God. Now you say astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. These things are very, very important ingredients as a person is going through the rituals of Ramadan. And you ensure that the 5 times daily prayer we mentioned earlier, you observe them timelessly. You don't delay them. You make sure when it is time, like 5 o'clock at dawn, you pray. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you pray. 3 o'clock, you go and join the congregation to pray. We pray 5 minutes. It's not up to 10 minutes even. 6 o'clock in the evening, you go and pray. 7 o'clock, you go and pray. So these 5 times daily routine prayers, you must observe them. And you also have to have intention in your heart that God is communicating to you through this important period. So you need to cleanse yourself, your heart first. Your heart means that you have to devour your heart out of any rancor, hatred, or misgivings towards people, and this kind of evil thought of going to shrines and going to tell lies and all those things. You must take your heart out of it and stay closer to God, and make sure that by the end of Ramadan, you have actually come closer to God, because that is the essence of it. You've come closer to God. You know, in this world, the Quran tells us that God created us to seek for God, to come closer to God. So He selected this month of Ramadan as one of the tools for us to improve upon our relationship with God. So whether the person that you are living with close, your neighbor, is a Muslim or not a Muslim, you have to make sure that you have good relationship with the people. So Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in one of his hadiths, he said, before you start Ramadan, you have to make reconciliation with all the people that you interact with your wives, your children, your neighbors, your workers, all your friends that you have had some interactions with them. Make sure that you reconcile and ask for apology from all the things you have uttered and all those before you even commence the Ramadan. So Ramadan is a period of purification, coming closer to God, and taking yourself out of all filth so that God will accept us. Now.
Right. Also, one thing I want to know, if anybody breaks any of these rules that are associated with Ramadan, is there any form of formal punishment that is meted out to the person, or is an inward thing? There is.
There Yes, there is. But let me use one hadith to explain this first. What hadith means the narration or the actions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said in one of the hadiths that God said, "As-sawmu li wa ana ajzi bihi." That is, fasting is for me, God, and I am the one who will pay or recompense the person who fasts. You see, the reason behind this statement is that if a person is fasting and all the things that I enumerated earlier, he goes to violate them, how will the imam know? How will his father know? How will his boss know that he has violated them? So this tells you that you are doing this fasting actually between you and God. And knowing very well that God is all seeing, all hearing,
all knowing.
If you hide all knowing, wherever you hide yourself to commit any of the violations, He will take note of it and He will ask you for it. And the day that He will ask you for it will be the day that you will depart from the world. That all the records are kept and waiting for you. Now let's come back to what are the punitive things that is stipulated for violations. We have two categories. One, we call it kafara. Kafara means that a punitive measure or something that you have to do to expiate the violation. And there's another one too, which is you violated it not as intentionally violating, but because of a circumstance. So let me take you through the first one, which is the kafara. For instance, the Quran says, you have been permitted to go unto your wife. Unto your wife. Because your wives are like a clothing upon you and you are like clothing upon them. So before the sun sets for you to break your fast, you are not supposed to go and cohabit with your wife. But then, if somebody violates this rule, I will not know as an imam, your father will not know, somebody will know, but God is aware. So the punishment for you is that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says you have to fast consecutively for 60 days before your sins will be forgiven for this violation that you have committed. It is the same thing applies to a person who eats or drink during the time of fasting. That God said we shouldn't eat, we shouldn't drink. If you deliberately eat, then your kafara has caught you. That is, you pay.
So you do the 60 days instead of the 40, the normal days for everybody. Is that so?
No, it's like, for instance, you see, we are doing it for 30 days. And if you miss one day, you have missed one day, you need to pay for one day. But this one, you violated a rule.
Right.
So the violation, the punitive measure is that, the kafara is that you must fast 60 days for each day that you intentionally violate it.
Right. Imam, so thank you so much for this education. But because of time, I probably would have to call you another time so we talk more about this. Thank you and happy Ramadan. Alright, so that was Imam Halaji Sahid Abdullahi. He's an Islamic scholar and Pon Katamanso Municipal Chief Imam, telling us about Ramadan, the activities that go on, those that are not allowed to do it, and when you violate any of the rules and regulations related to Ramadan, some of the punishments that comes with it. Also, this has been the social segment on the Morning Update on TV XYZ. My name is Nana Abnasel, and this program, do not forget, is brought to you by X Natural Mineral Water and of course Black Secret Makeup. Eric is on standby.
Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For Akwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With a low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Xyz Microfinance. Growing with you.
Welcome to Auto Check Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many hour crash.
Sure.
Check, auto checks. Check, auto checks. Check.
Emission, check.
Check, auto checks.
Alignment, check.
Auto checks. Check, auto checks.
Brakes, check. Visit Auto Checks at Koforidua Aquadum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much.
Auto checks.
Auto checks. Check.
Auto Checks. Your safety, our priority.
Check. Auto checks.
If I cry na menyisika, edia ye mefui.
Ehin fa na menya bosia edia tre medwuma yimu.
Kai kra mabre miye busia ato taxi fufu. Suhum Rural Bank.
Suhum Rural Bank.
Yemamu akwa baba Suhum Rural Bank. Ye won hyehyɛ ahodo bi te sɛ dwadifo abosia, ekuokuo abosia, susu account, eni daso wo ho savings account, me bada chain savings account, ene de keka ho. Suhum Rural Bank was 03422919896. Na won so wetumi aka sɛ
Suhum Rural Bank ama ene mayeka una.
Suhum Rural Bank enti me pa minie.
Suhum Rural Bank, growing our heritage.
Welcome back. This is Xyz. This is morning update. The Muslim brothers are already fasting. Many of them I know are very religious. In fact, they pay serious attention to this. Unlike many of us Christians who just wait for Christmas, just have fun, and go away with what we call New Year. I don't know if it's a New Year what resolution. But if you look at the manner in which our Muslim brothers and sisters have been groomed, they pray 5 times a day. And so sometimes you are traveling, if they have the luxury of stopping in the middle of the road, they stop and pray. We have a few Christians who are also very committed to their church beliefs and do what they do. But we claim Christians are in the majority in Ghana. So the question is, are majority of Ghanaians as religious as we see as many Muslims as possible go through their religious practices? It's a question I want to leave to you. This morning I'm with Courage. Kwesi Nobi is an MPP communications member, and then Prince Derek J is also here. He's a researcher. He writes a lot. In fact, he writes a lot. Too many pages. Sometimes I don't find time to read all. Today he's dressed like a chief, or I don't know. Prince, you are welcome.
Well, thank you.
Why are you in this?
Well, first and foremost, the Prince is not a name; it's a title.
Oh, I never knew. So the name is Derek.
Yes, my dad is the Jaseche of La.
The head of the,
the head of the royal household.
Okay, so now I understand why you have been very instrumental in the advocacy for the reclamation of the so-called stolen La lands.
Well, not just La lands, but Gadangbe lands and lands in general that have been acquired by the states. Yesterday, the Asogli chiefs were also advocating for an investigation into
land grabbing by public officials.
So it's a phenomenon that is going on, and we believe that the state is for all Ghanaians. The president is clothed with the powers of eminent domain and can acquire lands for the purpose of national interest. However, the phenomenon has changed into one that state actors use or abuse to steal lands and appropriate unto themselves and their business associates. Lately, the biggest phenomenon is the use of the military. And in fact, coincidentally, the people of La
are ending their 3-day fasting today. The KOLA, there's a coalition of law associations embarked on a 3-day fasting, not necessarily in solidarity with our Muslim brothers, but to pray and seek the face of God, even as we embark on a big struggle this week against the military.
But I've seen a lot of activity around the new military cemetery area. In fact, they scraded the ground, and I've seen heaps of sand suggesting that some development is going to take place.
Yes, actually, that is what the fasting was about.
Okay.
On Thursday, the people of La will march and occupy Plecho, which is an ancestral, site. There was a tree called the Plecho. There are ceremonies that are carried out there. The illegal cemetery, what you call the military cemetery, is actually an illegal cemetery, which was constructed without EPA permit, without LADMA involvement. It was just done just to secure land for the purpose of stealing the land.
So you want that land?
It is our land. In fact,
Rollins is there, Kofi Annan is there, Pakwese Misata is there, some top military commanders and we know
those personalities were buried there for the purpose of entrenching the stealing. In fact, the Major Mahama statue was positioned where it is in order to demarcate the land and appropriate it. We mentioned this a long time ago.
So you are talking about Major Mahama statue, and you have forgotten that that road is benefiting you and I.
The Gifford Road, the name itself was named because of the Gifford Air Base. The La people gave 23 acres for the establishment of an airfield. And that 23 acres is all...
I have opened the floodgates. So
23 acres is all the Bemakan has, not 23,000.
We'll do a proper one for calling you Prince and triggering all this conversation. Now, Courage, how are you?
I'm very well, by the way.
How has been the week? So far, not bad, I guess.
Not bad at all. Quite an intensive weekend for me. And yesterday was a bit quite fulfilling, if I may say. Able to achieve quite a number of things I set out to do. But this COVID will bring issues. I didn't know when I met my senior brother in all his regalia.
That is one of the...
one of the...
Ulomo or whatever they call it.
Yes, one of the...
I didn't see a lot of white around you.
Then, when you mentioned, I was shocked because the mask too, I couldn't make him out. But I've known him and his advocacy.
I was telling him that I hope that the cloth will not make him fire this morning.
Oh no! Today we are burying the mother of the Shikitele of La.
Okay.
And so
your outfit is apparently in preparation to join them.
From here we are joining them.
Now let's look at Daily Graphic on its front page. It says hold economic dialogue. TUC AGI retreat to government. I want to read about 3 paragraphs or some selected paragraphs for the benefit of those of you who may be hearing this for the first time, but the story is actually captured on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Now let me read the paragraph. It says the Trades Union Congress and the Association of Ghana Industries have supported calls for a national dialogue to solicit ideas and build consensus for the measures needed to revive the economy. The 2 bodies, which played key roles in similar dialogues in the past, said the scars of the COVID-19 pandemic made it ripe for a dialogue to chart a united and non-partisan course towards confronting the challenges. TUC Secretary General Anthony Yao continues with the recommendations on what Ghana can do. It talks about earlier advocates who to lead this national dialogue, the context within which the dialogue will be held, and then it makes reference to previous dialogues that have been held to the benefit of whichever party may have formed government at that time. Now, this is coming at a time when government claims that, in fact, it has sustained the economic gains. Government, in the presentation of the 2021 budget, made a lot of pronouncements referencing the economy they met and what they think they have left that is actually being able to sustain the pressure that comes with COVID. We also know this morning that IMF has downgraded Ghana from middle to lower income level country. IMF has made an attempt to suggest that the information on its own portal is fake, and it's getting a lot of backlash on social media. I'm sure you've seen some of them, Courage and Prince. Let's begin this conversation. I want to leave it as a whole for your opening remarks, 5 minutes each. Let me start with you, Courage.
Thank you very much, Senior. And let me also wish my Muslim brothers and sisters very well on this journey. You know, every very good Christian, when you opened, Those are the three pivotal things that Christ expects of us: prayer, fasting, and giving of alms. Very pivotal. And those are the three postures of any good Christian. So if you're a Christian and you've not been fasting, in fact, the mandate from Christ to us is even more than that of the Muslims. He said men ought always to pray and not faint. So you pray like you breathe on a daily, and you fast as well to make sure your spirit is active, and strong. On the issue of IMF downgrade, I'll pick it up from the angle of the
economic dialogue.
I do not think it is necessary. I have never been an advocate of that. I've never believed in that. I think that any government has access to specialists, has access to researchers, has access to a host of experts at its disposal. In fact, it has the capacity to even reach out beyond the borders of this country, to bring in consultants as it may, to support it and to make sure that it is achieving its objective. This window dressing fora that we've seen in the past, I do not think is really, really necessary. We saw the Senchi, dialogue and all of that. What did it lead to? Nothing really. Ultimately, the problems were still there. So these cosmetic suggestions, and I'm very disappointed in the TUC. I think that they would rather probably sit down, bring some very sound, solid suggestions to the government if they believe, particularly in the area of industrialization, job creation and all of that, which is their core mandate. But to call for this fora and dialogue and meeting and what have you, I do not think it is necessary. I believe strongly that the government is up to task. The government, from its budget statement, has shown clearly the direction that it wants to go. We are just ending the first quarter. It is not any time to call for any dialogue. The dialogue, I think, the call is not welcome. In my perspective, the call is not necessary. It is only important that we support government in its approach and its measures and the steps that they are taking to ensure. I would have expected that they would have read the budget and come out with very key issues. That we have read the budget that was presented, and from our reading of the budget, we think A, B, C, and D are laudable, but we think that these areas needs to be tweaked, and these are our suggestions. But to call for a whole national dialogue, for what again?
Is the dialogue not going to create the platform for such conversations where it is not a paper that has been presented, but a platform for key stakeholders who may even break into plenary sessions to have conversations on what they think should be a better blueprint?
We just went through the process of preparing a budget. Because of elections, the budget had to be prepared even post-elections. And during this past 3 months, there have been a lot of consultations. There have been a lot of consultations with all the relevant bodies to come out with the budget. And in less than a quarter in the last span of the budget, you are calling for another dialogue to do what? To discuss what again? What would the dialogue achieve or discuss that the pre-budget engagements and all of that did not do? So I think over and over again there's been the penchant to resort to cosmetic ways of addressing issues. And this is very much even in line with the same core. Last week I was here when the Honorable Minority Leader was calling for a particular committee to be set up again and all of that. I think we should tackle problems head on. And I expect the TUC to play its part. The government, TUC has every access to government. He has access to the Minister of Finance. He has access to the Presidency. He has access to.
So you prefer a backdoor approach towards solutions you may be seeking to
engage the government.
No, but you see, this posture for some may appear to be the typical NPP. We have the men syndrome. And when you are confronted with the challenges, you come back to the public and ask them to compromise. The free SHS policy, for example, it started with lots of calls for national dialogue. Government went on its own tangent, and we are where we are, depending on how you want to see it. Government has said that the economy is in some form of difficulty. Now, if stakeholders as key as the Association of Ghana Industries, the Trades Union Congress, and it's a powerful body. And at that platform, Kojo Mpianim also spoke. And let me quote one of the paragraphs Kojo Mpianim is reported to have said. He said, "We have challenges, and history has shown that people talking about an issue is the beginning of a solution. So let us host a dialogue Bring the key stakeholders on board and let's start talking. He cited the economic dialogue of 2014, which he said produced the blueprint for the country to seek support from the International Monetary Fund to extricate itself from its woes as an example to follow. Kwadwo Mpianim is not a walkover. And for him to make this comment and suggest that there is an example that you have rubbished because he made reference to the Senchi forum, for example. Don't you think that some listening to you may adopt that perception which is lingering?
Not at all. I mean, the 2014 forum, the outcome, according to him, was going to the IMF for support. Did we need a forum to know that the IMF exists to support alien economies to go to them? No, we didn't need that. It only takes a government that is up to try to sit down and say that, no, you know what, at this point, these are the difficulties that we are in. And for that matter, we believe strongly as a government that this is the way to go. And to show leadership and demonstrate leadership and act. You know, I respect Mr. Kwadwo Mpianim so much. I mean, read about him from JHS up to now. But I think on this matter, I disagree with him.
Okay, so we've done about 5 minutes. I've come in about twice. Let me take it from Prince. Opening remark, if you have any rebuttals or your own position. First, on this call for national dialogue, we'll move on to the IMF later because it looks like he spent the 5 minutes on national dialogue.
Very well. A good morning once again to everyone, including those in the military high command, who should be doing the right things to put Ghana on an even keel. I think that the president not too long ago called for a national dialogue on Galamsey. If national dialogues are a waste of time, then that would be the biggest waste of time that the president is calling for, especially in the face of him having lost the fight against Galamsey, which was already supported wholeheartedly by everybody, the media, everybody. It was bipartisan. The military was sent there. People died. Major Mahama died in vain. You've seen the military giving escort to Galamsey people post even Major Mahama's death. In the Mansi, the forests have been destroyed. Our water situation in the country has been affected by Galamsey to the point where water rationing is being added on top of the doomsday that we are all facing today. Yet the president is calling for a national dialogue. Is it a waste of time? Yes, it's a waste of time. That is the only waste of time I see in the national dialogue when the solutions are clear, because we've already had that consensus. Now, to whether there's a need for ongoing national dialogue on the economy, which has again collapsed under President Akufo-Addo, I think it is time for us to have a national dialogue. The Senchi dialogue was useful. It did not just send us to the IMF for support. The purpose for having the Senchi dialogue was to bring national consensus on the issues that we find to be core and not to continue having debates post a decision. So we can move as a country towards the point where we can have economic solutions that are deemed credible. So when the NDC at the time, the government of the day, that's the John Mahama government, was suggesting a national dialogue, it was looking for consensus, a bipartisan consensus. Unfortunately, the MPP threw it away and did not participate and poo-pooed it because they said that we were looking for credibility, policy credibility. At the end of the day, governments are put in place to formulate policy that would guide them in implementing what they think will be the right direction for the country. Indeed, the budget statement is not just a budget statement, but the economic policy of the government, and it dictates how we will spend money in the course of achieving the objectives that the president has set for us over the particular fiscal year. We have seen the MPP claim that we have a robust economy. We have, there are 2 R's, robust and resilient, yes, economy. And then came COVID. Within 3 weeks, we saw the economy gasping for breath, like the fish that died. Dying, the economy is actually dead. It's comatose. And it's not because of COVID. It was already dead. But the media hype around the economy was what was keeping it afloat. Because sometimes people make you believe what doesn't exist. And we have been living that make-believe situation. We are being told today, and I'm sure we'll come to it, the real situation of Ghana's.
But if you look at government posture, it gives an indication that there's a healthy economy in spite of COVID. And just recently, when government went for the $3 billion Eurobond, the narrative that came with the money which is already in the country was that it is because of the confidence, investor confidence in the economy, which made it possible that it was oversubscribed. And for that reason, government is happy. I've seen an advert in the center spread of the Daily Graphic yesterday, for example, talking about the fact that it's the first under COVID for any government to have gone for so much.
It is not about the so much. At what cost? You see, when you can go a borrowing. You see, COVID, even before COVID, people have monies that they want to invest. And generally, when you invest, you want to have returns on your investment. So if I come to you saying that, oh, give me 10 cedis, I'll give you 100 cedis over a certain period. You do the evaluation, the math, and see that, oh, it's worth your while, rather than keeping your money where it is, looking at global trends and so on. Virtually, we have been mortgaged as a people by this government. Even in COVID, about $1 billion was looked for. Then the $3 billion that you refer to, there's a current $1 billion also being sought after in the coming days. And who knows where it's going to end. I mean, every time there's a very heavy appetite for borrowing. We're told by this same government that borrowing was the lazy man's approach to solving the economic woes of the country. Unfortunately, we have seen that appetite not only because there's a need for borrowing, but what use has the money been put to? That is the biggest concern. And I think that is the sense behind this dialogue. So we can see where, if we do even need to borrow, what we apply the money to, such that the things that we put the money in can generate resources that will pay for these things. Because at the end of the day, it's you and I who will pay. We are being told that after the free electricity, which of course now has led us to a massive doomsaw, even in the face of excess generating capacity. We don't have a shortage, but then due to mismanagement and the fact that there's no money, that Ghana is broke. The truth of the matter is that Ghana is broke. So ECG cannot pay the IPPs, etc. And so we are faced with this, economic situation. We have a situation where the government of President Akufo-Addo has worked us into not only a highly debt-distressed country status, but we have a situation where the finance minister happens to be benefiting from the borrowing. And for me, that again is very worrying.
We'll walk into those ones when we start talking about the IMF's segregation of countries based on income levels and so on. But he makes an interesting point that we have witnessed dialogues. We've come out with brilliant ideas. So the Senche Forum or conference may not be the only one. And many of them have ended up on the shelves because governments will go and listen to the key stakeholders, and governments may or not adhere to some of the recommendations, strong recommendations, and that is what poo-poos such platforms, and that is the impression I get from what he's saying.
Yeah, I disagree with him, and that's my point of departure. I mean, we do have wonderful ideas on paper, yes. We do have recommendations from Senche, yes. But the failure of this government to adopt those clear paths is what is the worry. And so for the TUC and others, including Mr. Kwame Pianim, who is a leading member, a founding member of the NPP, to say that Mr. Akufo-Addo and his government are wrong, should have at least jolted the NPP into realization that, look, yes, indeed, they know the truth. And it's not that they don't know the truth. They know that the economy has collapsed. They know that Ghana is broke. They know that. In fact, they knew that way before most Ghanaians knew it. But at least, of course, the NDC knew it and was saying it. But most Ghanaians were led into the false belief that Ghana was not broke, that Ghana's economy was buoyant, was resilient, and so on. But the truth, the reality is that we are broke. And we need to take those steps that will take us out of this situation. And that is what the TUC
So
is
you don't believe
for.
that, as he suggests, NPP has the men and are delivering, and therefore...
Yeah, I think it's only fair to add the women and the Hawa Kumsons and all those others. And then we can all evaluate as a country whether indeed those are just rhetoric, like we've been getting from the NPP. Hawa Kumson had fish, mess. Everybody in the government It's a mess. And so to say you have a man, it's easy to say. But what is the output? That is what Ghanaians want. We don't want a situation where you can tell us that you have economic messiahs only for them to walk us into the current predicament that we find ourselves in, where we are being given all sorts of taxes, COVID tax, we are being given, I mean, just name it and we have it. So it is not true. That
now, let me come to you perhaps with an opening question. Is it not going to be comfortable for government to have a national dialogue where stakeholders will buy into policies it has already put out there, but perhaps may want to fine-tune or help them to appreciate the need to implement it, than asking them to sit on the fence and watch government act? Because if you look at the publication, it makes reference to electricity tariffs. AGI, for example, is suggesting that if you introduce new electricity tariffs, it will affect businesses and the people will respond negatively, and it will affect government's ability to raise revenue and operate. And this is a reality. So how do you marry the two?
I think it's quite a situation where you'd want to, again, be guided by history, and going forward also look at, in the past, what has these forums resulted, or the fora resulted. Ultimately, you're going to see certain recommendations come up. What happens to the recommendations? Implementation. Who has the capacity to make those implementations? Now, all the relevant bodies or stakeholders will be engaged at the said national forum or national fora. Do they not have access to government per the existing operational models of government now? Do we not have it? I think there's this idea.
So you think that the NDC technocrats will just walk to a ministry and tell them that this is my idea and they will just implement it? Is it as easy? Because a forum creates a different setting altogether.
What did we see in 2014? I think there's a certain reality, okay, of our political environment. I do not agree to, but I think it's one of the structures within which we work. We were here recently, just about 2 weeks ago, when a certain name popped up for some ambassadorial COVID or something, ambassadorial position and all that.
Abeku Santana.
Yes, and we had party people up in arms. I disagreed with it because this whole winner takes all situation is not healthy for all of us. Right? But even if such a minute thing could spark up so much sentiment and all of that, ultimately, when we went to Royal Senchi, what did the NPP say that it had not been saying all along?
It didn't participate.
Exactly. Now, is Prince...
But he makes reference to the point that Nana Akufo-Addo, president, has called for national consensus building on how to address the Galamsey menace just recently. How do you marry that with your posture on this particular issue?
I'll be very honest with you to tell you that it is the undesired outcomes of the attempts by President Akufo-Addo and our government to solve the problem that's led to that call. This Galamsey menace, which heavily started and proliferated by President Mahama and his regime when he did virtually nothing about it, rather than window dressing. We didn't see any real action towards it, right? We came into power.
Were you in Ghana when Baba Jamal and his team were chasing small-scale miners? Were you not in Ghana when we knew that even at that time excavators were bent? You called that cosmetic. How different is that from what we have witnessed recently?
But again, because we didn't see any real leadership in that fight. We didn't see any real commitment in that fight. Honorable Yunus Hussein was at the ministry, did practically nothing. But we saw a certain bold approach by this government. That along the way, lethargy set in. We didn't see the same effort. And I'm saying this with all honesty, that the way we started tackling the fight, there were certain developments that hampered it along the way. I expected heads to roll. I didn't see that. I expected my president to fire people. I expected the president to actually call the hard nuts. Because this, when you're fighting crime, you cannot fight crime. And again,
so you are suggesting that he compromised with them?
Not that he compromised, but the steps that I expected him to have taken that he didn't take.
Okay.
I do not know the challenges within the setup that made him take that sort of backseat. But what I'm saying is that if you want to fight anything, including Galamsey, you don't need a national power. What you need is a strong and bold leadership that drives whatever solution that you see. We always think that, whenever you come out with any solution, you need everybody to buy in, and that's what informed this sort of forum fora idea. But you don't. Leadership requires, excuse my language, this is Money TV, requires such guts, you understand, to push through what is necessary. Because most of the time, the ordinary person down there does not even appreciate the issues to the magnitude that you do with the information available to you. So you don't say, let's go to Senchi. No. You drive it. When the results start showing, they begin to appreciate. And that's the difference between leaders. That's why we institute leadership. Whenever leadership always, and we've seen that pattern in this country too many times, we don't want to now come and say, is there all Ghanaians? Let us find all of that in the name of consensus. When in this country have we had 100% agreement on an issue?
Okay,
even with Galamsey,
he asks an interesting. He lands with an interesting question.
When?
Well, my first take is that at least he's been bold enough to call President Akufo-Addo out as not having leadership qualities and not showing bold
I
leadership.
think if you stretch it to that limit, you would have been putting him on the spot, which is not fair to him.
No, but that is by inference of what he said.
Please, just address your issue. I don't want trouble where he has not categorically said something and he'll be quoted as having said so.
I said inference.
I think he probably was
said by inference. No. He was bold enough to say what he thinks President Mahama has done. And yet he called President Akufo-Addo out as not showing bold leadership. And I'm only highlighting the fact based on his assertions of President Akufo-Addo not having fired, and he failed to mention the names of people in his office who were doing Galamsey, who were caught collecting bribes. He failed to mention the names of his ministers who were in the business of selling seized excavators and having their sons double in Galamsey. He failed to mention party leaders who were involved in the collection of Galamsey money, party Nyasika and all that. I mean, those are the people who expected the president to fire, and he failed to fire because either he was complicit or he was not bold in his leadership. And he was disappointed in the president, Akufo-Addo. So if President Akufo-Addo is calling for a national dialogue on Galamsey, it means that he agrees with me that that is the worst thing that he can do. However, on the economy, which Akufo-Addo has supervised and brought to its knees, I agree that we need the buy-in of all Ghanaians. Otherwise, because at the end of the day, you owe more than 10,000 per the calculation currently due to the debt that Akufo-Addo has put Ghana under. And I think that all Ghanaians who did not have a say in that debt should have a say in how we walk out of that debt. Because, of course, for 4 years, they've shown us how they can take us into high debt. And we must be able to have a say in how we get out. Otherwise, they'll get us into deeper debt. And I think that on that score, I would say that the national dialogue, as is being called for by senior economists like Penim, who happens to be a founding member of the MPP, the TUC, and the entire Labour front, it's a call in the right direction because we need everybody on board.
So now let's walk into a while you are coming in, we'll be walking into the conversation on how do you call it, the IMF and all the projections they have made. But you wrap up in a minute and let me do that.
If I may, a second bite, I think that
let's give it to him.
My senior brother,
he asked for it.
My senior brother is maybe misconstruing quite a number of things. Of course, consistent with his normal posturing on issues. This Gadangbe lands and all of that, for instance, only kicks up when MPP is in power. In fact, if he's forgotten, we had a conversation about the Anadangbe. We had a conversation about this on Legon campus in 2008, when the group was now fresh and very strong and fighting and all of that. 2009, it died out completely. He was in office. He was appointed to positions. He was enjoying the largesse of government. So Gadangbe lands didn't matter any longer. Now that they are in a position, Gadangbe lands now matter again. You see, it is that sort of positioning on issues that I am decrying today. And that's what I'm saying. There's a certain level of honesty and boldness that is required in public service. If we do not see that, fora after fora after fora after fora, the problems will not be solved. So that if you have, for instance, a trade union congress, if you have Mr. Kwampieni, renowned economist, all of whom have access to government, all of whom have, if for nothing at all, Mr. Kwampian cannot say that he doesn't have access to this government. The TUC leadership cannot say that they don't have access to this government, and that if they have recommendations and they take it to the government today, the government will not listen to them. To now call for a fora so that we window dress the problem.
So like it's the same point you have made.
On economy,
I think that at this stage he can get a rebuttal because you.
But on the economy, he keeps making references to the economy that are false, completely false.
Okay.
Completely.
Brief comment on the claim that you surface when the NDC is in opposition.
Well, obviously everybody out there knows it's not true, and most people know how consistent I've been. Yeah. The only problem is that I cannot fight what has not already happened. For example, until the military started grading the land, I couldn't have been in the minds of the military to chase them when they had not done so.
But that land has always been for the military.
It's not been for the military. That's what you don't know.
It's always
saying to you, no, you see, I come from La. Okay, I come from La, and I know the history of the Gifat.
So
23 acres is all the military has.
But that cemetery was created by President Mahama,
no, it's not
by this government.
Listen.
That cemetery was created by this government.
You see, go and ask me to. I've been in meetings with him. That cemetery is an illegal cemetery. Okay, fine. Whether it was created by President Mahama.
Did you fight it when President
Mahama? Don't worry. Let's say it was created. Let's assume it was created by even Nkrumah. It is illegal. It must be removed. That we can agree on.
Now, you should have fought it when it was being done. Not now.
Don't worry.
And
it didn't exist until very recently. And in the manner in which it is, and we are saying that it is illegal, let's remove it now. Number two is that, are you aware, you say you are not done, no problem. Are you aware that the Songo Lagoon, okay, has been given out by President Akufo-Addo as in an executive instrument? The entire Songo Lagoon has been given to Magdan by an executive instrument as late as November 2020. How was I to fight that before he wrote that executive instrument? Is it right or wrong? If it is wrong, then let us all join hands. And you, as a Dangbe, I want you to join me and the people of Ada, your hometown, to tell President Akufo-Addo that he cannot give the Songo Lagoon, the salt, to one person.
Okay,
but then it's from
Prince,
that I will be against it any day.
Prince,
it is
wrong. You know what? I want us to move away to the subject, the substantive subject for discussion today. We'll do this another time, but obviously snippets of what you want to put across is already out there. In fact, yesterday this controversy started. The story was that Ghana has been downgraded from middle to low level income country. Now the IMF is making some projections here. It says that public debt stock is still on a nosedive. By the close of 2021, it will hit 81.5% to GDP. At the moment as we speak, it's about 76.4 thereabout. Then it goes on to talk about 2022. It will rise to 83.2%, 2023 84.8%, 2025 86.0%, and then 2024 86.0%, and 2025 86.6%. Now, it comes at a time when we know government intends to borrow more. This is what Bright Simmons put on his Twitter page or account. He tweeted, in 2021, Kenya will spend 15% of government income servicing debt. Ghana will spend 45%. Kenya went to the IMF for a loan of 2.4 billion to be disbursed over 3 years at 2% interest rate. Ghana just borrowed 3 billion cedis at an average rate of 8% plus. 200,000 Kenyans are protesting. Ghana is celebrating. This is what Bright Simmons has put on his page.
Exactly the point I was
making.
And
it raises concern about how we celebrate these monies when we go for the Eurobond, and then we come back as a people complain about how much we may be borrowing and whether we have fiscal space for what we need to do. Let me start with you because he started on the first topic. What do you make of all this and IMF's response that it's fake?
Well, as for the IMF and its responses, we all can read. You've been to their official account. It wasn't a fake account, their official account. And so we'll take it as official. It is true. And even without I am saying it, you're a man. We all know you're a man. Ghana is broke. We all know Ghana is broke. Ghana is suffering, and we all know that. We can feel it as a people. Indeed, if Ghana was not, what is the essence of the taxes that are being put on nearly any and everything, including the taxes that are even outside of the budget? Outside of the budget, new taxes are being even fixed, which is illegal. I'm sure
you are making reference to the LPG.
Yes,
we'll talk about that.
But I'm just saying that if Ghana was a booming economy, we would not need to be doing these things. But the fact that we are doing these things is at the heart of the reality of our situation today. The Ghana's economy has collapsed. In fact, it's collapsed more than the banks that were collapsed. It's collapsed totally. And it's not only on its knees, it is diving into the...
Are you not painting too much of a gloomy picture?
No! Look, you see, look at the figures you mentioned in terms of the debt, the percentages. When we're below 70, we're being told by the same people who are managing the economy today that we're heading into the abyss. Where are we heading? Are we heading towards below 70, or we're heading into the 80s and above? We're heading to the skies as far as the debt burden is concerned. We are highly, in fact, we are beyond HIPIC. We are beyond HIPIC right now. And it is unsustainable, the rates at which we are borrowing, for us to be servicing our debts. Currently, the workforce, and I'm going to make it very basic for the understanding, since he thinks Ghanaians lack the knowledge and expertise to think and reason and to appreciate their circumstances, so that their input is not necessary and the government knows it all. Government has all access to all the technocrats. The ordinary Ghanaian out there knows one thing, that the first thing is this, that today, as we sit, the basics of life are not available to us. Water is not, for most people. Electricity is not. The reasons are very obvious. The whys. The electricity, we cannot pay for it because government doesn't have the money. It's not that the electricity is not available. The plants are there. We have excess power. That's what they said. They even call it waste power. Who brought that waste power? John Mahama and his government. They have built more than enough capacity, even for export and for industrialization. They said they were going to do one district, one dam. If they had done those things, how do you call that?
One district, one factory.
One factory. You would need electricity for those factories. The electricity was provided, but because of the lack of expertise of the people in government, the bankruptcy of ideas, which they could have gotten from consensus building and conferences and national dialogues, which they have refused and closed their eyes to, except to limit themselves to borrowing, because Data Bank can get money out of that, and that is at the heart of the excessive appetite for borrowing. Will not be in this mess. So they come, for example, and instead of building the electricity subsector, they come with PDS to enrich themselves. The appetite for borrowing is only exceeded by the appetite for corruption and for self-aggrandizement and also state capture. That is what has clouded the vision of this country to take us out of, on a steady rise towards getting our economy in a very good shape. If you look at the statistics and what the IMF and the World Bank projections were for an outlook for 2017, it was a very good one. They inherited it and were crediting themselves with work that was done in 2015-2016, which was manifesting in the first quarter of 2017. That's the economy. Assuming that the plane was in flight, what has happened for it to nosedive?
COVID.
No, and no again.
Most countries have been blaming COVID. Most countries are making reference to COVID. IMF itself is now looking at.
It's COVID in Kenya.
There is COVID in Kenya.
But COVID is borrowing at 2%. Why is it that Ghana's borrowing is attracting 8%? It's because we are not attractive. So the risk involved in lending Ghana money is higher. And so we are being charged more for the borrowing. And yet we are happy to borrow at the higher rate.
The narrative by the finance ministry is that it is one of the smartest and most attractive things Ghana would have
no, it is smart. You see, it is smart for him because Data Bank is a beneficiary. He is being smart, personally.
But in this particular bond, the 3 billion one, Data Bank was not part of it.
You are not getting me. I'm saying that the totality of Ghana's debt overhang, the totality of Ghana's debt overhang is pivoted around a company called Data Bank. The appetite has been heightened because of the personal benefit that the finance minister and his cousin, the president, have been getting, and that is why they have been taking us on that path instead.
That is your perception or allegation?
It is not perception. It is reality. You know that as a journalist, and he knows that as
I do not know anything that you're saying. How do you substantiate it? These are baseless.
Even during his vetting, the finance minister confirmed these facts and rather went to the extent of saying that he had been involved in that industry way before he became finance minister. Confirmed the fact that his company was benefiting, and it's a fact, and we all know it. Even Databank research does not deny it when it comes out on Joy and City every morning with their propaganda. It is the truth. Ghanaians know it. Let's check the books whether Databank doesn't make any money off the borrowing that we make.
Okay, but you've got about 4 or 5 minutes. Let me go to him.
Quite apart from all of this, I think that it's about time that as Ghanaians we held people that we put in positions of trust to handling things that affect our lives to the fire of accountability.
Okay.
So not to be entertained one more day.
So
if the money is there,
I'll come to you
like
now.
Bamia said, they must pay for it.
Courage. He makes a strong point that the circumstances today have exposed government that indeed we are in difficult times, and the IMF is simply attempting a cover-up.
Thank you very much. I think for me, the discrepancy between what the portal, I have not been able to assess what supposedly
I've gone there, and what I've read, and especially with reference to the list and Ghana being among the countries categorized as such on page 60, I have seen it. Okay. Whether the document was planted on IMF's own portal and so on, I don't know, but I've received a mail from IMF which is speaking to some of these issues that I can talk here about.
I was saying, I have not been able to assess that. What the director is saying is also another thing. To the extent that there is that discrepancy, if at all, I'm sure that in the next few hours or so, there will be clarity on it. It will be reconciled, and we'll know what the exact position of the IMF is. My challenge, however, is with Mr. Derek Ajay. You know, I'm a young person. He's not too, or I think maybe about the 5-year period and all of that. And sometimes these things break my heart. That in one breath, we as young people who want to champion change in this country engage in such high level of duplicity, you understand, and say that we expect change. We cannot get that. All right. Today, he's seated here. At what percentage was the government borrowing under President Mahama? At what rate? And yet, that was tolerable. Today, at single digit levels, 8% and all of that, it's intolerable because he's in opposition. All right? The same manner, we're in this country. For 4 years, we were in darkness. What was the solution? Oh, let's bring on, how do you call it, more capacity, right? Wonderful. Capacity was brought on at very ridiculous agreements, to the extent that even when power is produced and the country does not take it because we do not need it, right? We still have to pay for it at high cost. Mr. Prince Derek found nothing wrong with that. Today, the government is had to spend millions of dollars servicing power that has been generated by private entities that we do not consume. And yet, when it comes to the issue about energy sector management, they will tell you, how many megawatts has President Akufo-Addo added? When we actually have excess generation capacity, they move that question, ridiculous as it may. And then today, when maintenance of the transport system, because when the power is generated from Akosumo or the plant, Asobri, wherever, it needs to be moved to the people. You have an infrastructure that does the movement. At some point, you have to replace some of it. In doing that, you cannot replace cables with live power running through them. So at some point, some parts of the country, some sectors will have to go off. And you see, if you want to know the degree or the magnitude of what is happening, I'll give a reference. You see the ARS runabout on the Obojo Road, where they're trying to build this dual carrier that links up to Adrengano. Along the line, heavy, I don't know the name of those, but very heavy, the ones that have 4
the pylons.
Heavy pylons are being constructed there. I do not think those ones are being constructed to move anything other than electricity. At some points to connect, and if it is such heavy pylons, what does it? That it is a major line, so that if it is disconnected at any point in time to work on, some good coverage of an area will go off. Mr. Prince Derek is telling us that that is intolerable. But staying in 4 years of darkness under his regime, under President Mahama's regime, was tolerable. It is this sort of positioning that I fail to understand. I cannot understand it on any day. I expect a certain level of candor. You know, when we come and sit here like this, you are not special, but to at least respect the folks out there that you are trying to communicate to, for them to know that, oh, these people truly understand our situation and all that. We are all in this country. We saw the steady growth. As I speak to you, 76 factories that hitherto were non-existent are existing today. People are working there and able to pay fees and to take care of their dependents. Mr. Prince Derek is telling us that all of that do not matter. Because
so are you denying IMF's classification of Ghana from middle to lower level income?
When you've had probably about a year, right, of circumstance where you could not engage in your full productive activities as an economy, definitely it will take a hit. Where were we before COVID struck? What was the trajectory? Was that not far better than what we saw 8 years under the NDC, 4 years under President Mahama? Far better. But unfortunately, COVID, a natural phenomenon, a natural disaster, hit globally.
Now, IMF's concern has made reference to borrowing. What has the MPP government, which has done so well for the economy, got to show Ghanaians that this is what we have used so much, we have borrowed for? Because I'll be asking him the same question.
Great. If you want to know what we've used so much of the borrowing for, it is just simple. That we inherited a country that had 50 ambulances. Today, we have 357 because a certain 307 was bought and added to that stock. We inherited a country which industrialization was declining. Government decided to move to now give stimulus packages for those that were struggling, existing ones, and to create new ones where they did not exist. As a result of that, 76 new ones are existing today, employing people. We have an economy where today, all you need to do is to demonstrate capacity by passing, and there is no obstacle at all in your way in accessing secondary education, beyond which at any point in time you can continue. If your education terminates at BECE, you are done. But after secondary school, even after 10 years, you can pick your certificate and go to tertiary.
So that is free SHS.
Exactly. These are the things we are talking about. And all these are there for all to witness. Today, up north, is it about 400 communities have dams that they are using to farm year-round as a result of planting for food and jobs. Food cost in this country has been fairly stable for a long period of time. But for that, under COVID, what would have happened to us? Today, we are talking about 80 storage facilities put up in our food basket to store food when there is bumper harvest, so that even when there is the lean season or the shortage, we still do not have price hikes and all of that. All these we have done. But more importantly, and probably the one that my brother here fails to appreciate, that to develop economy in these times, what you need is data. You need core functional data to plan with. In 2008, we started National Identification Project. Criminally, in 8 years, the NDC abandoned it. Today, as I speak to you, over 50 million Ghanaians have been registered. As a result of that, 10 tax identification, which people are refusing to go and we are being able to convert that national ID into a unique tax ID, such that revenue mobilization, which from JHS we used to hear that we need to widen and widen and widen. Now we've been able to fix that. Of course, the NDC could not connect registering the citizenry and to things like how do you call it, revenue mobilization, productivity, and all of that. So they criminally abandoned it. We've had to resuscitate it in the past 4 years.
Use the word criminally abandon it. Yes. Are you not being too harsh?
Not at all.
Because as we speak, MPP has not implemented what you have just spoken about. It is something that has been promised to be done in I think from June, from next month or June this year. Yeah. And so if somebody starts a process and has not finished, and your conclusion is deliberate and criminal, I don't think you are being fair to them.
No, when registration started in 2008 and you came to power from 2009 to 2016, nothing, not even a single citizen was registered.
Registered for what?
National ID.
I had my national ID card before acquiring a new one.
Of course.
When it
started,
factually, what you have said,
no, that's
I
true.
don't think it's
when
right.
it started, I was then a student on campus. I registered as well. But what became of it? Zero. So when we came, we had to start all over again. Award new contracts, begin the whole process and all that. Even pickups that were procured for the NIA had gotten rotten. Tires were flat and everything. The internet is awash with videos.
So the NDC ended up messing up the economy regardless of whatever they claimed at the time. That's the summary of what you are saying.
But the point is that
I wanted to go to him.
The criminal nature is that whatever investment had gone into all of that was wasted. And then in addition to that, you have a president, a government that has done that. Almost half of Ghanaians now fully registered, and is moving on to now apply it in the various ways necessary to boost the economy. And then you sit here and you poo-poo the government for all of this. We mentioned very critical things that have been done, and you try to malign it simply because you are in a position. And the same position has happened on the lands issues.
Okay,
when you are in opposition, it is a problem. When you are in government,
that's a whole subject. And
I want you to be consistent on it. That will even make some of us be able to come on board. But if you're not consistent on it, you cannot get the buy-in.
He makes some strong points about what he thinks NPP has done and attempts to reference what they can actually point to reflect the monies borrowed.
Well, I think that all he did was to reiterate the sloganeering of the MPP. The empty sloganeering, the one district, one factory, the one dam, which is a pond somewhere, and all that. I mean, if there are 76 or so factories really in existence, these factories should be taking up a lot of electricity in the course of manufacturing and the industrial activities that they are pursuing. If this government indeed had inherited excess electricity due to the poor thinking of the former president and his government and their mismanagement, which led to excess generation capacity, which could have been exported if they were smart, then you would expect that there'll be even over 250, 260 factories, because there's excess energy which needed to be taken up very quickly and put to productive use. So if we have about 260 districts, and you're saying one district, one factory, and yet, even by their over-bloated estimation, had 76, that should mark them in terms of their performance. So I will not give them high marks for that, even though it is not even true that they have 76. And even 76, okay, what amount of energy are they taking? What's the capacity? If you go and create a tabletop factory, that takes 0.1 megawatts. No, in fact, even kilowatts. When you have excess,
which is not what they refer to as factories.
They don't. What they have are not factories. They have people's factories that they have gone and painted on. Existing organizations that they have claimed.
At least not all of them.
No, most of them are. Out of the 70s, whatever. They should, apart from Ekumfi, what else have they done? Nothing. But the bottom line is that whether they have done some or not, there's more room for improvement. And indeed, if they had, you see, if you don't have something, and you say, like, when we didn't have the generation capacity and we're in darkness, you can justify being in darkness. It is only the fool who, in the midst of what? Tests.
Abundance.
Abundance of what?
Water.
Tests. So if
that is ex-natural mineral water.
Thank you. So if
I would recommend that your funeral come for packs.
Thank you very much. We'll do that. Now, if in the abundance of excess electricity, Ghanaians are in doomsday, you get a message. It means that somebody is not doing this one. It's not thinking. And who is that? Those who have been put in authority.
When you say, I try to avoid the use
you see, it is very
strong language.
I have not used strong language. It is. I just gave you the proverb, in the abundance of water. We have an abundance of electricity. It's a confession by government that we have excess electricity. And not only do we not have factories that are taking,
but they made reference to other things the MPP has done with the money they have borrowed.
They said it was a money problem in the NDC, but the same Bamia is saying that it's not a money problem. Yet we know that the country is broke, and that is a money problem. They have not paid the IPPs. The IPPs have been threatening to, shut down and all that. You understand? Today they can't give us cock and bull stories about. In fact, let me just lay it out very clearly. Before the NDC left, the Compact 2, the Millennium
Challenge account
was being dedicated to the electricity sector to ensure that all the things that are happening today become a thing of the past, beyond even having generated capacity beyond what we have. So that there's, when we produce electricity, about 30% of it is lost from GridCo to ECT, as in like being taken to the end user.
They call it transmission losses.
It is not sustainable to have something that you're losing 30% of and paying for 100%. So and even before then, before 2016, the books of all the energy sector players had been cleared and were in the blue.
If
now they're in the red.
If the economy we saw that wrapped up at the end of December 2020 were in the hands of NDC, things would have been worse.
In 2016, there was no Dumso. Dumso had been solved before the end of 2016.
I'm not making reference.
No, I'm just using Dumso as something that Ghanaians can see, because you can see darkness, you can see light. Okay? Unlike the kind of rhetorics and the sloganeering that is going on here. I'm saying that Dumso was solved under President Mahama and left excess generation capacity. Started a Millennium Compact 2 that would have put us in a situation where the ECG would have been fixed. They came and they took ECG and put it in their back pocket. They called it PDS. They did not even pay for it. They did not pay a dime for it. They rather were using our prepaid money to try and pay for something that they had collected to own personally, themselves and their cronies. So that is the NPP for you in terms of the energy situation and the debt situation and how they manage the economy and their history and account. Just to wrap up, I'd just like to, for the purpose of a disclaimer, because I'm on the set, indicate very clearly that I've been very even-handed in my approach to the land issues. You recall that when in 2008 President Kufuor attempted to appropriate state lands in the name of his emoluments, and we stopped him. I was then the vice president and acting president of the youth, which stopped him. We stopped him on only one premise, that yes, you can have the land, you can have the office, you can have the house, but there was a clause in the thing that we were opposed to, that is that if he dies, the land should revert to his family and becomes a freehold. We said we would not allow that, and I did indicate clearly that President Jerry John Rawlings had also done a similar thing in Ridge, that because he was still alive, the moment he dies, the family must leave. And I still stand by that fact.
Seen that post circulating that they should leave that place.
Yes, I have stated that he must leave, and I've reiterated it even as recently as.
So let me do a few text messages. This one says, Dr. Baumia, and dia ehiani unique digital system or address for streets to get names, because that will not put food on our tables. Pay the youths in afforestation their 4 months allowances. They are also human beings. Ablade sent this text message. This one says, good morning, TVXYZ and Wiz.TV. I hope you people will be giving news regarding the politics Saturday. I don't know. I'm sure he's calling for a kind of talk show on a weekend. Yes, it will be up soon. Correct Score sent this, says Nanado has destroyed Ghana. He has nothing for Ghana. It's limited to corruption and lies. As for Baumia, we have no time for him and his incompetent President Akufo-Addo, and goes on. And NPP likes it, or whether NPP likes it or not, John Mahama will be on the table for 2024. Sorry, I've gone to the same message again. This one is from Eben from Kwabenya. Enough of Nana preso. We can't afford it anytime because gadgets are being destroyed. Just to summarize the text messages and have opportunity to read others. Abdul Basit sent this. Greetings. Sorry, I want to go to the message. Fellow Ghanaians, please let's support the government to help upgrade our power supply. VRO and GridCo are working very hard to fix this problem. Truncated because the rest is just about repetition. And this one is from Kwame Acidity Achafo Atrinsua. No, Ahafo Atrinsua. Concerned youth of Atrinsua appealing to government and Ministry of Roads and Highways to come and construct Atrinsua toll booth. It will generate employment and income for the Ahafo Region Coordinating Council and the country at large. From Masawudu in Bantama says, despite the economic mess the NPP has inherited from the NDC, Despite the economic mess the MPP inherited from the NDC, President Akufo-Addo and his team have introduced the necessary policy initiatives to reverse the current difficulties facing the country.
Like free SHS that is suffering from no money.
Good morning. I am Lord Listowell, watching from Asamankase. God bless you for the good work. Thank you, Listowell. Last one, please, Eric. Ask the MPP man. He's talking blah 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 blah. They lost the election hands down, yet the verdict was stolen from NDC through dubious means. It didn't come with a name, and so the conversation is on. And then we have been talking about the IMF's statement. Now, let's walk into what is really trending as we speak. That is LPG marketers against the 18% that has been 18 pesos that has been introduced per liter of per kg or something of gas sold. And yesterday there was some shortage. It looks like it's artificial. And the minority has issued a statement. I'm told that what government is imposing is illegal because it was not captured by the budget, and they were going to fight it in Parliament. Let me start. Are you privy to this LPG issue, liquefied petroleum gas, and the fact that the marketers are protesting against the increment?
Not particularly.
Okay, so he knows. Details, let him start, and then I think you appreciate the conversation and come in.
Sure.
Derek.
Since he didn't follow the national dialogue on the deforestation.
Stop this propaganda.
You know, when you talk about national dialogue, it takes you to the land corner. That's what I'm observing.
No.
But there's a text message here.
This one is dialogue on deforestation.
Nitaki Welbeck. He has been sending messages to this line. Please, the number is 0556 999 999 or 020 866 7000. It says, "Good morning, bro. Hope you are fine. Unfortunately, all the state institutions, including ECG, are under the control of political appointees, including the CEO and board. Hence, we can't hold any technocrat responsible for inefficiencies, but the government, period." That's what Nitaki has sent, and it just straight to the point as he's always been speaking.
All I was saying was that the LPG, or the liquefied petroleum gas thing, was born out of a national dialogue on how to cure deforestation, the desertification of the northern Savannah belt, and the possibility of it encroaching all the way down south was at the heart of why LPG was being promoted. Fortunately for us as a country, we've now not only struck oil thanks to the good works of GNPC over the years, and as a byproduct of that, find, we do have a lot of LPG, and one would expect that something that you have,
In fact, the actuable gas is actually the main reason why we are not experiencing the usual shortages we witnessed over the years.
May God bless the soul of President Mills and that of the able vice then at the time and former President Mahama for that initiative, which has committed in us having LPG. Now, you expect that the prices would come down, or at the very least remain stable, or if there was candor, to borrow from him, that the government would have at least put it in the budget. They did not. If you recall, there's history to why the minority is saying that they will cause its reversal. A former deputy finance minister under the current finance minister took on government when there was some nominal price change in fuel prices, and that was being taken. He went to court and made sure that the court ruled in his favor.
Is it Kweku Kwating?
Yes. And so that is the benchmark for how we deal with such situations. So for the same team, the Kpatsing Oforiatta Akufo-Addo team, to engage post the court decision. You see, when there's not been a decision and you do something, that cannot be said to be illegal, criminal, and so on, to borrow again from him. But the criminal-minded individuals who are trying, because
and again, let's avoid those strong words.
So then I think that
yes, when he used it, I tried to draw his attention.
Very well. I mean, so it is wrong for anyone who is placed in charge of this country, the economic management of this country, to try and stab the Ghanaian in the back, put his hand in the pocket and take out money without it being referenced in the budget. It is only Parliament that can impose taxes. It is only Parliament that can fix these kinds of levies and stuff. And so it is not right what is happening. And it must be reversed. In any case, I think that the Ghanaian has suffered a lot. And it's not even because of COVID. We were suffering before COVID. And you see, I think that just to tie it, we look at things within context. What happens today must be looked at against what is happening today in country A, if you're comparing two countries or two eras. There must be some baseline that is consistent. So if, let's say, for example, and because of a reference he made to the Kenya situation and our borrowing in the past, what we borrowed in 2010 cannot be compared to today because the market prices of things and various things would have changed, including the global economic situation and the cost of borrowing and so on, including even our current financial situation. Much the same way, if you want to attribute everything to COVID, if you look at two countries post-COVID in the same time frame, getting monies from the same source, so all the parameters are the same, and one is getting at 2% and one is getting at 8%, it presupposes that one has a higher cost of borrowing relative to the other, and that is Ghana, because of the bad management of the economic situation. Now, this the LPG situation, these guys are now threatening. That's the LPG marketers are also threatening. Now, if their threats go ahead because of government's recalcitrance, what it would mean is that there will be a shortage. What it means is that we'll not have domestic gas in our homes to cook. It means we will have to look at others, either charcoal or electricity. Do you have electricity?
I have.
Oh, really? Then you are one of the very few Ghanaians who has electricity. The vast majority of Ghanaians don't. In fact, almost.
I know there is this unannounced power cut.
No, it's called Dumso.
The question was
no, call it by its name.
So
it's called Dumso.
No.
No, it's called Dumso. It's not unannounced anything. It is Dumso. Dumso has come and it's a permanent feature in the homes of
sure by now you have made your point. We have 7 minutes to wrap up. So I will take about 3 minutes of your response or less if you don't want to say much. And then we wrap up.
Thank you very much. I think from what I gather, it is the law, the levy that is going to Parliament for approval, that has some 18 peso introductory charge for, basically, I mean, if there is a tax, it's for revenue generation. You know, then I have always said that in order to recover from COVID, we all as citizens have to contribute to our quota. Some minimal contribution.
How do you want me to contribute to a quota when you are not ready to take my suggestions to make it comfortable for me or easy for me to give you the support you
already
want?
We've taken your suggestions. We engaged you prior to the budget. We engaged several stakeholders and all of that. We've come to you. We've given you some reliefs and introduced some minimal tariffs. You understand? In order to make sure, and if you check, I think page 58 of the budget, it was clear on COVID-related taxes that we already have a debt incurred from our expenditure on COVID.
How much?
Do we continue? 19 billion. Do we continue?
19 billion.
Do we continue to add to that, or we introduce new ways of sustainably managing COVID forthwith, whilst we think of how to take care of that? So the propaganda by my brother that it is freebies that you are paying for this is not a fact. The budget does not reflect that. Page 58. You can reference it
better.
However, some of these, and the thing is that we are all in these difficulties together.
Are you sure?
We are all in the difficulties together.
Are you sure the government appointees enjoying the freebies are in this difficulty with me?
The government appointees in the Fourth Republic have always enjoyed certain privileges. It's not changed. But car allowance, it's not changed, and it's not peculiar to them. There are a lot of civil servants who enjoy certain cuts. I mean, those in the security services, they don't pay bills, water, electricity, what have you. And so all those are there.
So we are not in it together.
No, we are in it together. We are in it together, as we've always been. And the
for this, I will disagree with you.
So if some 18 peswa, charge is being introduced on, I think, per liter of LPG.
But
for the policeman who is enjoying free light, free water, free accommodation for most of them.
Policeman will be angry with you.
No, contribute so that we can all recover. I do not think it is in bad taste.
Of course.
But a texter sent in a message about the digital address system.
Sure.
You see, it's important that we appreciate these things.
Slogans.
That without proper address systems, even borrowing is expensive because the risk is high. But if I can go to the bank and the bank can verify that, ABCD, and even from the bank, once I give the information, they can digitally.
Which are the banks?
All right, digitally confirm my abode or my residence.
Are you aware that many of the financial institutions don't recognize, and for that matter, don't respect the Ghana card that I have today? Because I've been to banks
and the new voters
and they have told me they want my old one.
Because that data is now being integrated. You heard of this attempt by
how many years on?
Senate
But
no, it's a new data that
they are in government. They are in government, so yes, of course, they may not be able to implement everything at once. But you are in a comfort zone because at your time, it didn't look as if everything was perfect.
No,
you couldn't even register them alone, let alone use the data.
You see,
I put the question to him.
In fairness to the current administration, in fairness, government is not an easy thing. This government, because of the sloganeering, the propaganda, and its media hype, has made it as though they know it all. In fact, they don't need anybody's advice. They can do it all by themselves. That is the reason why they're having the difficulty. And they don't tell the Ghanaians the truth also about what has been done in the past. So it's like nothing has happened.
What did NDC do with the monies you borrowed?
Oh, if you go to the health sector, let's start from just here. You can see plenty. Bank of Ghana Hospital, you can see the regional hospital as a rich hospital, you can see the maritime hospital. Like health sector, plenty. Come to electricity, they themselves say we've done too much, that the rest is even excess, is waste. They don't know what to do with it. That we come to the education sector. The reason why the SHS people are not in school is because there's no infrastructure in place. They did not build infrastructure, and so the students will now
4,000 new structure have been put up.
But
even at Mahama, you can see it.
Oh, please. Please. Bahamas should have been continued.
No, but explaining and the propaganda is too much.
Today the SHS students should have been in school and not be told to go back for
Courage. Chrissy Bonnie.
On the morning of their
Derek, you are off air.
To go.
You are eavesdropping into my microphone. Prince Derek Ejay is a researcher, a writer. He represents the NDC. He has been a former appointee under the Mills administration and an activist. I will stop there.
I was also an appointee of President Mahama, the able.
Of course, I think that escaped me. And then Courage Kwesi Bonnie is waiting for his appointment, and he's also a young NPP activist. Actually, represents the communication team of the NPP. Thank you, gentlemen.
They get the $6 billion Ghana cedis in the budget. That one.
We are ending the program on behalf of Nana Abena Sewa and the entire production team, from Linda to Abuaje to Sector to Ralph. These are powerful guys. If you want to watch TV XYZ and you don't hear Ralph or Seto, then forget it. There's a cameraman called Kofi and another one called Ni. They like smiling when they see people of the other side. I'll tell you much about that. Bye.